Hello everyone, welcome to Advanced English Conversation 2. This is the orientation video for 2022. Our class today is divided into 3 parts. First, a teacher introduction. Second, the course introduction. And lastly, I will be providing you with some tips for success. Let's begin with a short teacher introduction. So my full name is Irene Cow. You can call me Miss Irene. I'd rather you not call me Miss Cow with my last name because cow sounds like the animal, and I'd rather not be referred to as Miss Cow, so call me just Miss Irene. I am American, which means that I'm from the USA. I'm actually from the East Coast. My hometown is right about here, and it's near a famous city called Washington, D.C. Many of you have probably seen D.C. on the news because it is the capital of the United States, and it's also where the American president lives. No, I have never met him, even though we live quite close to one another. Now let's move on to what you're all curious about, which is information about my course. Firstly, you should know that my course is designed around a teaching philosophy, and my teaching philosophy is that language is a muscle. What I mean by that is my course is designed to improve English communication through practical usage. Because if language is a muscle, you should think of my class as English gym, when you are working out your English communication muscles to make them stronger so that you become a more fluent speaker and writer. Let's go over the materials that you'll need for my class. Of course, you'll need your textbook. You'll need this every class unless I tell you otherwise. You will also need one thin lined A4 size notebook, and you will need this every class. You will also need one A4 size folder for the handouts that I will be giving you, especially those about the instructions for your speeches. You will also need pens, either green or blue, and pencils. Electronic devices such as laptops and tablets are allowed, they're not necessary, in my class, but usage is restricted to note-taking and research. I'm very excited to announce that we will be using a new textbook this year. This is the first time I've changed the textbook, so I'm very excited to go over some of the content with you. We will be primarily using the textbook for its themes and lesson goals. We will not go over every single chapter of the textbook, but it still will be important in terms of its relationship with class material. Regarding the notebook that you need for my class, please, please, please do not buy a thick notebook. The reason why is, in my experience, because I have so many students, carrying the notebooks has actually become a problem for my back. So the notebooks must be thin to help me with my back pain. Notebooks must be A4 size. The reason why is because I give out a lot of worksheets that are A4 size, and the notebook should have a soft cover. Please don't give me a notebook with a hard cover. It adds to the weight of the notebook, and when I'm carrying so many notebooks and it's so heavy, it really stresses my back. So in order for you to understand what type of notebook you need, I put an example of an acceptable notebook in GIF form on the right. Now I'm going to go over class rules and behavior. One of the most important rules in my class is no speaking in Korean. The reason why is because my class is an English immersion class. So, speaking in Korean is disrespectful not only to me, but especially to the other students who want to learn English. Think about it this way. You only have around 100 minutes with me each week. That means you have 100 minutes to work out your English communication skills. You don't really use English speaking in other classes, right? So if you're speaking in Korean in my class and other students want to hear and use English, you're taking away their time when it comes to English language engagement. So please speak only in English. Another thing I would like to cover is sleeping in class. Of course, sleeping is not allowed in my class. It's an English speaking class. You can't speak if you're asleep. I also don't want you to put your head down in class. However, I know that life at day one can be very exhausting. It can be very stressful. Sometimes you're super tired and you don't feel very well. So, if you are ill or if you have a serious condition, please come talk to me and inform me first, because there have been instances in the past in which a student has not been feeling very well. So I have allowed that student to put his or her head down in class while all the other students are doing their activities. However, be aware, if you are given permission to put your head down in class and take a rest, you are still responsible for any of the work that you miss. Let's talk about tardiness and absences. First of all, don't be late to class. I think that's pretty obvious. Have all your materials, especially the notebook and textbook, on your desk by the time the bell rings. I will be checking pretty much every single class to see if you have your notebook and your textbook. If you are absent or tardy for a legitimate reason, you are expected to have a note. If you go to the health clinic downstairs, you need a note as well. Sometimes students get sick in class, they don't feel very well, so they go to the clinic. But you need to come back and give me a note. I give special post-it notes for students to put in their notebooks if they're absent or tardy for a legitimate reason. For example, if there's a group activity and you miss the group activity for a good reason, then you put the post-it in your notebook to show that you weren't able to do it because you weren't in class. But you only have 2 weeks after your absence to get my special post-it. So after 2 weeks, you are no longer excused from that activity. Assessment. How are you graded in my class? You will of course have exams. Like last year, you will have a midterm that is primarily listening passages, and you will also have a fill-in-the-blank passage. You will also have a final exam per semester that will have reading passages that have multiple choice questions about each passage. Classroom activity is also extremely important. So you will be graded on participation, your notebook check, a speech packet, and your presentation. There will be 1 presentation per semester. I want to bring attention to something that is different from Miss Dominica's class. If you had her in the first year, I only do 1 notebook check per semester. I do not do 2. Participation is one part of your grade. It's usually the easiest part to get full credit on. Participation is based on whether you have all of the necessary materials, your attendance, your attitude in class, so you don't sleep or put your head down, your active involvement in class, and your willingness to engage in the English language. So I should hear you speaking in English, no Korean. If I hear you speaking in Korean, you get 1 verbal warning, and then minus 0.1 deductions begin. So make sure that you are engaging in English. Notebook check. Like I mentioned before, notebooks will only be collected once a semester. However, that doesn't mean that you should stop taking notes after your notebooks are collected. It's highly advised that you continue to take notes after the notebook check. After the notebook check, I will still be giving you things that might appear on the exams. So don't stop writing in your notebook just because there's been 1 notebook check. There will always be a list of what you need for the notebook check posted beforehand, probably in Google Classroom. You don't need to have content from this orientation video in your notebook. So if you're taking notes on this orientation video, I don't expect you to put that in your notebook for the first notebook check. Each semester, you will have a speech packet. The speech packet is 5 to 10 worksheets, and they will be turned in all together all at once. The worksheets are meant to help you prepare for the speeches, so they are designed to help you improve your writing and your presentation skills. The speech packets contain worksheets that are mostly fill-in-the-blank and matching, but some involve a little research. Also, some worksheets will be corrected before they are turned in. So I will be giving you answers and you need to correct them with either your blue or green pen. If you are missing these corrections, that will definitely equal minus points. Part of the completion of the speech packets is making sure that you have corrected the answers. As part of the assessment, you will also be performing speeches for my class. There are 2 speeches, 1 per semester. Each is about 3 minutes. One speech is the literature speech. The literature speech is you performing a famous scene from a famous work of literature. The other speech is the informative speech. This is a 5-paragraph research-based speech. Quizzes. Last year, I did not give out a single quiz to any of my students, and that's because all 10 of my classes were extremely well behaved. I expect the same for this year. Quizzes are a last resort for me. If the entire class is fooling off and not paying attention or doing the proper work, I decide that everyone in that class will take a quiz and it will become part of your assessment. So you can avoid my quizzes by being a good student in class, and I won't have to grade them and you won't have to take them. Let's move on to the final part of this lecture, tips for success. I want all my students to succeed, so how exactly do you do that? So there are some differences between your first-year class with Miss Dominica and my class. First of all, I believe Miss Dominica has a much simpler notebook check. She does it twice a semester, but I think my notebook check is much more comprehensive. I'm definitely much pickier about complete sentences and the way you take notes when you're taking notes on videos that you will watch in my class. I think Miss Dominica also gives her students less vocabulary. You actually receive a decent amount of vocabulary that you need to write down in your notebook from me, and you will also be learning idioms as part of your vocabulary. Miss Dominica last year taught you MLA citations and the basic 5-paragraph essay structure with the MMS format. Now, I expect you to know that by your second year, and while I will still help you with the MLA citations and writing the 5-paragraph essay, I generally do a lot more advising based on the content of your speech, which means that I will be helping you form your thesis and decide the direction of your research. I highly advise you to see me early once you get your informative speech topic to talk about how to do research and what direction you want your thesis to go in. You should take special care to pay attention to the following things in my class. First of all is the vocabulary. So I have green and purple words. These are words that you need to write down in your notebook because they are part of the notebook check, but also they are guaranteed to appear on the exams. Second of all is my class is going to focus on present global and societal issues throughout the year. These include economic, political, and social trends. Something new that I'm really going to try to do this year is to focus on non-Western perspectives. So throughout my class, if you notice that we are targeting some specific global or societal issues, you should really pay attention to those concepts. Lastly, the scope of the exams will be narrowed down beforehand. I know that there's a lot to cover in my class, but I will not make you study every single word that I have ever said in my class. So I will narrow down the scope beforehand so that you should study strategically rather than trying to memorize everything that's ever been said in my class. It will help you a lot in terms of saving time. Before coming to our first class together, please have your materials ready. So have the textbook and the notebook. Some of you might not be able to get the textbook in time, so I will not do a textbook check in the first week. But please try to have the notebook by the first week in which we have offline class. Also, I ask you to bring positive energy to my class because I'm a very positive person and I like to make sure that my students have an engaging, educational, and good time in my class. But I also need you to be optimistic about English and to bring your positive energy as well so that all of us can enjoy English together. If you have any questions after watching this video, please feel free to either bring your questions to the first day of class, or you can ask me a question by sending me an email at the email address listed on the PowerPoint. This concludes the 2022 orientation video for Advanced English Conversation 2. I'm extremely excited to meet you soon, and I can't wait to talk in English with you and have a wonderful year of class together. Bye-bye.